So Johnny from Canada, he asks, a few years ago, Bashar predicted that the Sphinx would be excavated, the spaceship of Thoth and the records of the halls of Atlantis would be found, and men of integrity would publish their findings to the world. So he's asking, when was he expecting that prediction to occur?
Well, first let me say something about prediction. Bashar tells us that there's really no such thing as a prediction of the future. There's a sensing of the energy at the time the prediction is made. If nothing changes in that momentum, that may come to pass. But if something has changed, then the prediction may become obsolete. Now, there are people, as far as I understand, that have done some excavation under there. There may be people that know things that they're not talking about yet to the world. So it's hard to say what the difference is between the time that something may actually be discovered and the time that somebody may feel it's okay to actually release that information to the world. So it's hard to say whether or not the prediction actually has come true,
Right.
but we're not being told about it. I can't tell one way or another at this point. But nevertheless, the idea is that when Bashar, which is very rare for him to make a prediction, so when he does, he feels there's a lot of energy or momentum behind it, that it might be unlikely to change, that it's most likely, most probable it may come to pass. But a lot of times when he delivers that kind of information, he's letting us know where the energy stands right now. And he's giving us an opportunity to decide whether or not we're actually ready for that to actually happen. And so when that information is made known to someone, the fact that that information is being delivered changes the information, changes the energy. And so he's giving us an opportunity to decide, is this something you actually prefer to have happen? Or does the majority of your society still not ready for this? You decide. So when he makes a prediction, it's never about the idea that this has to happen. It's more about the idea of, do you want this to happen? And what are you going to do about either letting it happen or changing the course? So that's the thing that people need to understand about prediction. There's no such thing as a prediction of the future. There's a sensing of the energy that exists at the moment the prediction is made. And it could change course depending upon what the information from the prediction does or what people decide to do about the fact that now they're aware of that information.
Right.
So it's a constantly moving stream. And that's why he very rarely makes predictions, because we keep changing our reality. And he's just telling us, this is where you are now. Do you want to keep going that way, or do you want to change course here? So
Okay.
hard to say what happened with that.
Right.
We do know that from time to time there are discoveries made that take a while for people to admit have been made.
Yes.
We're constantly finding, oh, we discovered this 5 years ago. Oh, well, thanks. Now you've told us.
Yes.
Okay, now
Yeah.
we know. But so who knows what's being discovered and what is or isn't being let out into the public.
Okay. We've got another question from Canada, from Camila. She'd like to ask about the soul of the planet that we call Gaia. She asks, does the soul of Bashar's planet, Sasani, have a name? And if so, do the souls of Gaia and Sasani interact with one another somehow?
The general collective consciousness of Bashar's world has been referred to as Shakana, which then means sort of like consciousness of higher light, I guess, for lack of a better term, would be a rough translation. So he's talked about that. They don't usually have names for most things, but they do have an ancient language. And I think at the time they recognized the concept of a collective world consciousness or a world soul. They, in their language, called it Shakana, which means exalted light or higher light.
And her second question was, do the souls of Gaia and, of course, then Shakana interact with one another somehow?
Probably they do, since the Essassani people, through Bashar and others, are contacting our planet. So I would imagine, this is something, again, Bashar could explain more deeply, but I imagine that if there's any contact at all between the people of one world to another, there is probably contact on all the different levels between those two worlds. That would be my guess. It would make sense to me that there would have to be, because Bashar has already talked about the fact that when he communicates to our people, in a sense, they kind of have to check in with the collective consciousness, the world soul, so that they're making sure that the information they deliver is appropriate.
Yes.
And that they're not interrupting, intervening, spilling the beans, interrupting a process that we need to go through. So because they have a relationship with our collective consciousness, with our world soul, that would tell me that the world souls of each planet must also, on some level, be connecting and interacting so they can determine what is appropriate in terms of the communication between the respective civilizations. So that would be my guess.
Fascinating, because I think if anybody has seen, some of the Bashar sessions, there are points where people will ask a question, and sometimes he will check.
Yes.
And then come back with information, or he'll say point blank, I can't reveal that information.
Right, I'm not allowed to talk about that right now. So he's checking in with our higher minds, he's checking in with our chosen path, he's checking in with the collective consciousness of our world, the collective consciousness of other beings, your guides, to make sure that whatever it is not appropriate at this moment for him to say, he's not going to say.
I find that fascinating, because whenever we speak to people who are intuitive or mediums or channeled entities, I think for many people there is a sense that, well, they know better than we do. But again, Bashar is so consistent. It is really about, well, what do you prefer?
And he just knows what he needs to know at that moment. He doesn't know everything. And they impose a filter on themselves during these kinds of interactions to make sure they don't say something that they shouldn't be saying to us at that moment.
Wow.
So when he's communicating to us, there may be things he doesn't know that when the session is over, he will know, but can't know, so that he doesn't accidentally tell us something he shouldn't be telling us while the session is going on.
I just find that incredible. That's incredible, because to me, that means, and it's again another confirmation that we are truly in control of our own destiny. On the whole, we decide. We make decisions on the whole about where we individually want to go.
Exactly.
I find that that's powerful. Yeah. Very powerful. Very empowering, actually.
It is.
So I have a question, actually. The fact that I love this, that we shift from parallel to parallel reality, split seconds, second to
Billions
second.
of times per second.
Love that. Because, whenever I'm in often trouble, I think, well, it's going to be over soon. I just have to shift to another reality and I'll be fine.
You're always shifting.
Always shifting. But here's what I can't understand. So yesterday I woke up and I was Nicole. Understanding that yesterday as Nicole, if I do have parallel lives at the same time, I could be a Viking.
Sure.
And I can be an extraterrestrial entity in the past, present, future, wherever along the timeline. So why do I keep waking up as Nicole day after day after day after day?
Because that's the continuity you're creating in order to have this particular theme of exploration. So we're constantly new people, but we also said, I want to explore a theme in space and time. So I'm going to continue to impose a definition on this aspect of my consciousness that keeps making me experience myself as the same person over and over again, with just very slight changes that represent my ability to grow and explore this theme. But you're actually becoming a completely new person billions of times per second. So that goes back to the question of the 13th step, where Bashar is saying, if you understand that you're actually a completely new person every single moment, that new person must, by definition, have, if you wanted to, a completely different history. Which means that when you're talking about breaking an addiction, like smoking, if you can truly, truly wrap your mind and fully comprehend the concept that you're a new person every moment with a new history, it's not that you stopped smoking, it's that you never did. And that's why there's no urge anymore, because you're a person that doesn't have the history of smoking. Now, that's a tough one for a lot of people to wrap their minds around, and Bashar doesn't expect that everyone can actually just do it the first time out of the gate. It takes practice to really understand how to do that, because more often than not, as we just said, we're using it in a way that actually does create and maintain a sense of continuity from one moment to the next, as if we're the same person, so that we can have this linear space-time experience and think, okay, I'm still the same person learning this, I'm still the same person learning that. And you are the same identity, but you're not the same person, because person and personality is an artificial construct. It's a projection of consciousness. And one of the more fascinating things on that subject that I think Bashar said recently, going back to the whole concept of channeling, is he said, if you actually stop and think about it, because we actually are greater entities than just this physical representation,
Yes.
this personality is being channeled by your greater self into physical reality. So we are actually all channeling all the time in order to channel this physical personality to have this experience.
Wow.
So this is not who we totally are, it's a channeled projection.
Oh,
So we are always channeling
Yeah.
from that point of view, which I thought was a fascinating perspective.
Subscribe and watch Part 4 on YouTube.
is there anything that Bashar has ever said that has utterly shocked or surprised you?
Well, many things.